Do you have favorite things? Because your favorite things would be a great topic for a still life. And that's what we're gonna make today. We're gonna draw a still life. And I'm gonna grab some objects that I like, that I think are important to me, and we're gonna focus on details, overlapping, and shading. All three of those characteristics are an important part of a still life. We're gonna be focusing on overlapping today, but details and shading are still gonna be important. So go ahead, find some of your favorite objects so that we can arrange them into a cool picture, and grab a piece of paper and a pencil, and let's get drawing. For this still life picture, we are focusing on overlapping, and that's just a way of giving the illusion that some objects are in front of other objects. But no matter what we're drawing, if we're looking at something real and we're trying to draw it, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to figure out what the basic shape of it is. I am looking at 5 flower pots I picked out. Each one is a different size and shape, and they have different details on each one as well. So one is round, and I just realized it's a little bigger than that, so I'm gonna have to draw it larger. And then each one has a spout on the top. So I started off by drawing a circle because it's round, and then I put the spout on the top. And I'm drawing lightly so that I can make any changes I want to change. So I started in the front because the other pots that are overlapping are going to come out from behind it. So the next pot overlaps just a little right here, and it's more of an oval than a circle, but it's like kind of bigger on the bottom. So it's more like an egg than an oval. So it's big on the bottom, thin on the top, with a spout. And I forgot to mention that I put this line across because these pots are sitting on a table, and that's the edge of the table. And back here would be the room that the pots are sitting in and the table is in. So then right here in front, we have a small pot, the smallest one of the group, and it's also the lowest one. So when I look at it, this pot's the closest, so it's also touching the table down here at the lowest point. And it's round like this other one, but it's also a little bit shorter than that one. So the spout is about right there. So you'll notice I just drew it right over top of this other one because that's what you do when you're overlapping things. So one thing is in front of another thing. So this pot is in front of that pot, and I can always go back and erase the part that's overlapping so that the pot actually looks like it's in front. Now as I'm doing this, I'm checking how tall the pots are. So when I look at the pots that I have set up, this one is the lowest, and then this one is the next lowest, and then this one is a little bit higher. And I do the same thing when I check the bottoms of the pots. So this pot is the lowest, and then up a little bit is this round one. And when I look at it more closely, it actually should be up a little higher. So you see I'm going to move the bottom of the pot right there, and now it's higher. And then this one is higher than both of those. And then the next pot, it looks like the bottom is about even with the neck of this pot. So that's one thing about drawing a still life, is you can use the other objects to measure the ones that you're working on. So I know to start the pot here, because when I look at it, the bottom of this large pot is about even with the spout of this one. And then this pot goes out. It's at its widest point. So the curved part is even with this pot when I look at it. And it curves in some. And then it's got a really tall neck part.
It's really wide on the top. It's about as wide on the top as it is down here on the bottom. It's kind of odd shape now that I think about it when I look at it and I'm trying to draw it. So these are just the basic shapes. And one of the nice things about these objects that you're drawing is like, they don't have to be perfect. You just do the best that you can. And really, if, for example, this pot is a little too tall, I don't think it is, but if it were, you probably didn't know that. You know, if I want to keep this pot on the paper, I can just decide, I'm going to make the top a little bit thinner so that it fits on the paper. And then the last pot is, now I'm going to use this round pot that we drew first as a way of measuring. So the side of the pot comes out about right here, because I'm using this pot to measure. So I know that it kind of pops out from behind that pot almost in the middle. And then it pops out from behind this pot right there. So that's how wide this is. And then this one kind of goes, it's short, and it's shorter than that pot. So it's about this tall. And then the top part is actually more like a can. It's straight, and then it angles out from there. When we overlap things, you can draw the objects right on top of each other, as long as you can remember to erase the overlapping part. When you're ready to start drawing details, remember to use each pot to give you clues about where to put the other things. So this pot told me where to start this pot because it's about in the middle of there. You know, this pot is the tallest, so I had to make it the tallest in my picture. This pot's a little bit shorter, so I knew that I had to make it about that tall, so it would be a little bit shorter than this one. So I can use all those clues and compare each object to each other to draw it correctly. So now I'm going to work on drawing the details on these pots, because that's going to make them look more realistic. Okay, first we sketched in the shapes of the objects. That's the largest detail that we have for each object, is just the shape of it. We also overlapped the objects by having the objects in front partially cover up the objects that are behind it, so that we can see that there's depth. These pots are in front of this pot, which is in the middle, which is in front of these two pots, which are in the back. And then from there, you start adding details, from the largest details all the way down to the smallest details you can include, because those little details are what's going to give the impression that these are real objects and you didn't just make them up out of your imagination. You were actually looking at real objects and trying to draw them the way they were. And now I'm going to keep adding things, because that's kind of one of the fun things about still lifes, is usually you can keep going. You can keep adding smaller details and smaller details and smaller details and shadows and colors, and keep going until it looks as realistic as you can get it. And even from there, if you keep practicing, next time you'll be able to take it even further and make it look even more realistic. Wow, I am extremely happy with how this turned out. It looks so realistic. I hope you're happy with yours as well. Remember that we were focusing on overlapping in this video, and overlapping is when an object in the front partially covers up an object that is behind it, and that creates the illusion of depth. Remember that there is also another video about shading and about details, so you might want to check those out as well. I hope you enjoyed drawing a still life. It's kind of fun drawing the things that you like and sharing it with other people, and I will see you next time.